He's just background noise, my sister Olivia said, sliding a water glass to my son while her kids ordered $120 Wagyu steaks. Mom added, Lucas needs to understand his place. I just smiled and said noted. When the chef arrived, I felt the blood drain from my face. I looked over at Lucas. He'd shrunk. That's the only word for it. He'd made himself smaller, his shoulders curling inward, his eyes fixed on the empty space where a plate should have been. He was 14 years old, and my sister had just called him background noise. My mother, Sarah, didn't try to fix it. She didn't apologize for her favorite daughter. She leaned forward, her pearls clicking softly against her wine glass as she set it down. Olivia is right, Brooke, she said. Her voice was smooth, reasonable, which made it 1,000 times worse. Lucas needs to understand his place at a dinner like this. His place. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. I know what you're thinking. You're probably screaming, why didn't you get up? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you grab your son and walk out right then? And I wish I had. God, I wish I had. But you have to understand what it's like. When you spend your entire life being told your voice doesn't matter, you eventually stop speaking. It's a kind of learned helplessness. It's a prison without bars, one built from a lifetime of small humiliations, of being overlooked, of being told in 1,000 tiny ways that you are not enough. When you live in that prison long enough, you stop rattling the cage. You learn that fighting back only makes the punishment worse. You learn that the only way to survive the holidays, the birthdays, the family dinners, is to make yourself invisible, to nod, to swallow the acid rising in your throat. My silence wasn't weakness. It was a survival mechanism. It was the scar tissue I'd built up over 38 years of being the other daughter. So I just nodded, a tiny, imperceptible dip of my chin. I watched Lucas take a small, careful sip of his tap water. He wouldn't look at me. He was too embarrassed, and I was too ashamed. Jenna, the server, returned. Her eyes flickered to Lucas and his empty place setting, then to me. I could see the pity there, and it was almost worse than the cruelty. She began pouring the wine. A bottle that cost $150. She filled Sarah's glass, Olivia's glass, my glass. Even the twins Chloe and Kayla got their sparkling cider poured into tall, elegant champagne flutes. Lucas just had his short, plain water glass. The bread basket arrived. A beautiful assortment of focaccia sourdough and warm breadsticks. Olivia immediately took the basket, offered it to her daughters, to my mother, and then placed it at her end of the table, far from Lucas and me. Lucas stared at the bread. He was a growing boy. He was always hungry. Mom, he whispered so quietly I could barely hear him, can I have a piece of bread? Before I could answer, Olivia said, Oh, Lucas, don't fill up on bread. You're not eating. Remember. Sarah just smiled, a tight little smile, and took a delicate bite of focaccia. This was my family, and I sat there silent, numb, trapped by a lifetime of practice. But under that numbness, for the first time, something new was simmering. It wasn't hot, white-hot anger. It was cold, it was quiet, and it was starting to count. My mother, Sarah, tapped her wine glass with a manicured fingernail. The sound, a sharp ting, cut through the restaurant's low hum. If I could have everyone's attention, she announced, beaming at Olivia and the twins, I just want to say a few words. I watched her raise her $150 bottle of Chardonnay. She was in her element. This was her stage. To my daughter Olivia, she began, who has always understood what it means to have ambition, who has built a wonderful life, a wonderful family, and who has raised 2 exceptional daughters. She smiled at Chloe and Kayla. We are so, so proud that you're both following in your mother's footsteps, getting into the best schools, aiming high. It just shows what's possible when you have drive, when you don't just settle for, well, for less. Her eyes flickered to me for half a second, just long enough for the insult to land. To the girls she finished. The table erupted in cheers, and to Chloe and Kayla. Lucas and I just sat there. Our water glasses remained on the table. No one had poured him a cider. No one had offered me a glass of wine. And as I watched them all clinking glasses, laughing, celebrating the success of the right branch of the family, a cold realization settled over me. I used to think it was just simple favoritism, that I was just less interesting, less charming, less whatever than Olivia. But it's more complicated than that. It's a psychological script, and every family member has a role to play. It's called the golden child, divided by black sheep dynamic. The golden child, Olivia, can do no wrong. She is the living embodiment of all the family's hopes and values. Her successes are not her own. They are family successes. She is the star. But to have a star, you need a dark background to make the light look brighter. That's the black sheep. That's me. My role isn't just to be overlooked. My role is to be the contrast. My failures, or what they perceive as failures, are necessary. My lack of ambition, my struggles as a single mother, my quiet life, all of it is used as a measuring stick to make Olivia's achievements seem even more spectacular. I wasn't just the overlooked daughter. I was the necessary sacrifice. They didn't just forget about me. They needed me to be less than. Because if I also succeeded, who would Olivia be better than? Brooke, aren't you going to toast? My mother asked her smile, not reaching her eyes. I just raised my plain water glass. To family, I said. Olivia laughed a high tinkling sound and turned back to her daughters to discuss their new school uniforms. The moment had passed. The performance was over, and Lucas and I were invisible again. Jenna returned, balancing 4 heavy plates. The smell of seared beef and truffle butter filled the air. She placed the $120 strip steaks in front of Sarah, Olivia, Chloe, and Kayla. They looked perfect, seared to a deep brown, resting on a bed of roasted vegetables. And then, nothing. She gave Lucas an almost invisible look of pure apology before moving to the next table. The family dove in. Oh, it's perfect, Olivia sighed, cutting a piece. It just melts in your mouth. My mother nodded, her mouth full. Absolutely divine. I didn't watch them. I watched Lucas. He was trying so hard to be small, to be invisible. He was staring at the wood grain of the table, his knuckles white, where he gripped his water glass. His bottom lip was trembling, just slightly. But I saw it. My 14-year-old son was trying not to cry because his own family was treating him like an animal, like he didn't deserve to eat. And that was it. The invisible chain I'd been wearing for 38 years, the one made of, be nice, don't make trouble, know your place, didn't just crack. It vaporized. The numbness I'd mistaken for survival evaporated, and what was left wasn't that hot, messy anger I used to feel. It was something colder, something focused, something precise. I'd spent my entire life being the black sheep. I had accepted it for myself. I'd eaten the scraps. I'd swallowed the insults. I'd paid for the privilege of being ignored. But they weren't just doing it to me anymore. They were doing it to him. And that was a line they didn't get to cross. I looked up from Lucas, my gaze scanning the dining room. and I saw him. Chef Kenneth, my head chef. He was doing his usual 8 p.m. rounds, walking the dining room floor, his white jacket, immaculate greeting, regular guests, checking on tables. He hadn't seen our table yet. He was 2 tables away chatting with a couple celebrating an anniversary. My mother was laughing at something Olivia said. They were completely oblivious. They were safe and warm in their little world, the one where they made all the rules and I was just the background noise. My heart wasn't pounding. I felt perfectly terrifyingly calm. I knew exactly what was going to happen next. I'd spent my whole life being quiet. It was time to make some noise. I lifted my hand. "Excuse me, Chef Kenneth," I called out. My voice was clear and steady. It cut right through their laughter. The table froze. Olivia's fork loaded with steak stopped halfway to her mouth. Brooke, my mother, hissed, her eyes wide with fury. "What in God's name are you doing? Don't you dare make a scene." Kenneth turned. His expression of polite professionalism shifted to confusion and then to recognition as he saw me. "Can you join us for a moment?" I asked, my voice level. He started walking over. My family stared at me horrified. They thought I was about to complain about the bread. They thought I was about to embarrass them in front of this important man. They had absolutely no idea what was coming. Kenneth walked over his face a mask of polite concern. He looked past my family, his eyes landing directly on me. "Mrs. Foster," he said, his voice warm and professional, "is there a problem with your table? Is the service not to your liking?" The table went so quiet I could hear the ice shifting in my mother's glass. "Mrs. Foster, Olivia," repeated her voice thin. She looked from Kenneth to me, her mind clearly failing to make the connection. "Brooke, who is this?" my mother demanded, her tone sharp. "Why is he calling you that?" I gave Kenneth a small, reassuring smile. "The service is wonderful, Kenneth. Thank you. Jenna has been perfect." I turned to my family. "I just wanted to formally introduce you. This is my mother, Sarah. My sister, Olivia. My nieces, Chloe and Kayla." They all stared, completely bewildered. "I'm sorry," Sarah said, forcing a laugh. "I think there's a misunderstanding. This is my daughter, Brooke." "Oh, there's no misunderstanding, Mom," I said. "Chef Kenneth knows exactly who I am. He should. He's my head chef. I'm the owner of Vespertine." The silence that followed was heavier, colder than anything I had ever experienced. Olivia's fork, the one loaded with a $120 piece of steak, clattered onto her plate. Chloe and Kayla just stared, their mouths open. "You, what?" Olivia whispered. "I own it," I said simply. "All of it. The building, the business, the inventory in the kitchen. Jenna, our server. She's my employee. Chef Kenneth. He reports to me. This whole celebration, you're having it in my restaurant." My mother's face was chalk white. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. That's not possible. You work in an office." "I do. My restaurant group has an office. That's where I run the operations for this place and the 2 other restaurants I own downtown." I let that sink in. I watched them all trying to recalibrate, trying to process this new reality. But I wasn't finished. "You know, Mom," I said, my voice dangerously soft, "I was surprised when Olivia said she'd booked Vespertine. Out of all the restaurants in the city, she picked this one. Or maybe you just forgot." "Forgot what?" Sarah whispered, her eyes darting around. "Forgot what this place is." I pointed to a quiet, empty table in the corner, the one by the window with the best view. "That's where Dad brought me. The only time he ever took me out to a truly fancy dinner. He saved for 6 months to celebrate my college graduation because he was the only one who thought it was a big deal. I looked right at my mother. I told you about it. You said it was sweet, but a waste of money. You and Olivia didn't come. I could feel my voice getting stronger. He sat right there at that table and told me he was proud of me. He said, "You're the one who sees things differently, Brooke. That's your gift. Don't ever let them make you feel small for it." I leaned in. When he died, he left me $20,000. It wasn't much, but it was everything he had. I used it to start my first small food cart, and when that succeeded, I bought another. And when I'd saved enough, the very first thing I did was buy this restaurant. My mother's hand was over her mouth. This isn't just a business, Mom. This is his legacy, the one I built to honor the only person in this family who ever saw me at all. And tonight, you came into his house, and you called his grandson background noise. I turned away from my mother's gaping, speechless face. I looked back at the table, back at my son, who was still sitting there frozen next to my half-eaten cold bread roll. My gaze found Chef Kenneth. He was watching me, his expression unreadable, waiting. I gave him a calm, level nod. "Kenneth," I said, my voice perfectly even, "my son Lucas hasn't eaten yet. He was overlooked during the main course. Could you please take care of that for me?" "Right away, Mrs. Foster," he said. "What would he like?" I looked at Lucas. His eyes were wide and still shining with unshed tears. "Sweetheart, what do you want?" He swallowed, his voice barely a whisper. The steak?" "The steak," I confirmed to Kenneth, my voice ringing with a clarity that felt new. "The $120 Wagyu strip. And please add the truffle butter enhancement. Oh, and a large side of your truffle Parmesan fries. And the molten chocolate cake for dessert when he's ready. Whatever he wants, put it all on my personal house account." "Of course, ma'am," Kenneth said. He gave Lucas a small, respectful nod and turned toward the kitchen. He understood. This wasn't just a food order. It was a correction, a rebalancing of the ledger. As Kenneth walked away, I turned to Jenna, the server, who was standing nearby, holding an empty water pitcher like a shield. "Jenna," I said, my voice just as calm, "you can bring the check for this table now. Their check." That's when the real panic hit them. "The check," Olivia stammered, her hand flying to her throat. "Brooke, no, you can't be serious." "Why not?" I asked. "This is your celebration. You booked the table. You ordered the wine. But the bill," Brooke, that bottle of wine alone, "was $150, the steaks. It must be over $800? $810 to be exact, before tax and tip," I said. "I knew the menu. I had approved the menu. You all seemed to be enjoying it." I don't have that kind of money," Olivia burst out, her voice cracking, her face crumpling. I can't pay that," I assumed. I thought. "You thought what I said," stepping closer. "That you could come into my restaurant, order the most expensive items on the menu for yourself and your golden daughters, and then publicly humiliate my son. That you could deny him food, call him background noise, and then just walk out while I paid for the privilege of being insulted." "Brooke, please." My mother, Sarah, finally spoke. Her voice was trembling. "We're family. You can't do this to us. Think of the girls." "I am thinking of a child," I said, my voice dropping cold and sharp. "I'm thinking of my son, the one you told to know his place. The one you said was just background noise." I looked at Olivia. Her face was a mask of pure terror. The successful daughter, the golden child, utterly, completely exposed. You said family doesn't let a child go hungry, I said. But apparently you do. I, on the other hand, don't. Kenneth is feeding my son. Jenna arrived, her face pale, holding the black leather bill folder. She hesitated, looking at me. Give it to my sister, I said. Jenna's hand was shaking, but she did it. She placed the $810 bill directly in front of Olivia. Enjoy the rest of your celebration, I said. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to join my son. You can pay Jenna on your way out. I took Lucas by the hand. Let's go, sweetheart. We're moving. Where are we going? He asked, his voice still small. To the best table in the house, I said. I led him away from the scene, past the staring diners, to the quiet corner booth by the window. It was table 12, the one with the best view of the city skyline, the one my father had saved for months to sit at, the one I'd always kept reserved even when we were fully booked, just because it felt like his. We slid into the booth. Kenneth arrived almost immediately, carrying a tray himself. He placed the $120 Wagyu steak in front of Lucas, followed by a large bowl of truffle Parmesan fries. The molten chocolate cake will be out shortly, Lucas Kenneth said, treating my son with the respect he hadn't received all night. Thank you, sir, Lucas whispered. As Lucas took his first bite, his eyes went wide. Mom, he breathed. This is the best food I've ever had. You deserve it, I said, my voice thick. You deserve all of it. From our table, we had a clear view of the rest of the dining room. I watched the drama at my old table unfold like a silent movie. I saw Olivia, her face red and blotchy, arguing with my mother. I saw her swipe her credit card, only to have Jenna shake her head and hand it back, declined. I saw Olivia turn to her daughters, Chloe and Kayla, who suddenly found the floor very interesting. I saw my mother Sarah let out a sigh of pure theatrical defeat before digging into her own designer purse and pulling out her own card. She slapped it down on the tray. The $810 bill plus a presumably minimal tip. Jenna processed the payment, and the family gathered their things. They didn't look at me as they walked out. They scurried their heads down their perfect celebration, ending in quiet, utter humiliation. After they were gone, the restaurant felt lighter. Lucas finished his steak and was halfway through his chocolate cake when he finally looked up at me. Are they going to be mad at us, Mom? He asked. I reached across the table and took his hand. Probably, I said honestly. They're probably going to be very mad. But I need you to listen to me, Lucas. Their anger is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to know your own worth. I squeezed his hand. Don't you ever let anyone in this world, I don't care who they are, make you feel like background noise. You are not an extra. You are not a supporting role in someone else's story. You are the main character in your own. He nodded, his eyes serious. I know, Mom. I love you, I said, and I'm so, so proud of you. I love you too. And you're pretty cool, Mom. Owning a restaurant. I laughed, the tension of the last 2 hours finally breaking. Yeah, I guess I am. As Lucas finished his cake, I looked out the window at the city. And I thought about everyone else out there who might be listening to this. And if you are listening to this, if you've ever been made to feel like you were on the fringes of your own family, if you were the quiet one, the background noise, the one who was always expected to show up but never celebrated, this is for you. You are not an afterthought. Your story matters. Your worth is not determined by how much space other people decide to give you. You don't need their permission to take up space. You don't need their invitation to be celebrated. You are not the background noise. You are the main character, and you deserve to eat at the head table.